Well, I watched a movie last night called The Secret Gift of Christmas. It's about a personal shopper. It just came out last year, and it's very much like The 12 Gifts of Christmas with Katrina Law. What personal shopper shops for this guy, and he's resistant to all her suggestions and everything. But ultimately, it turns out that she's got some brilliant ideas. Instead of giving a fake potted plant, she really um, gets to know the clients and everything. But what's funny is that another one of my favorites is A Gift Wrapped Christmas with Meredith Hagner.
Hmm.
It came out on Lifetime on the same year that the 12 Gifts of Christmas came out on Hallmark. So I wonder if there's a little, competition there to see who had the best one.
Probably.
They're
Yeah.
all very similar, but they're very cute. So if you have a chance to check out The Secret Gift of Christmas, it's very cute. Also, during that movie, they played a terrible Downy commercial with the Backstreet Boys. If you haven't seen that,
That is my favorite commercial of all time.
it just
It's
reminds me of when Justin Guarini started doing the Dr. Pepper commercials, the little sweet commercials.
yes.
It's
I'm
like,
like,
wow, this is
you
what it's
know,
become. Next, they'll
it's
start
so
playing the
funny.
fair.
But you
So
know
funny.
what? They've probably got their retirement money set aside,
Oh,
so you
sure.
know.
Hmm.
I'd do it.
All right, should we get cooking on today?
Yeah,
Let's do
let's
it.
do it.
Okay. Welcome to Love on the Pod, a podcast about all the cheesy romantic TV movies we adore. I'm Jessica.
I'm Danny.
And I'm Sherry, and this is episode 18.
So today we are discussing Mr. Manhattan. And Mr. Manhattan was released on May 24th of 2024 on GAC. It stars Alexa and Carlos PenaVega. And here's a little synopsis for you. Mason Bradley's life turns upside down when he unexpectedly becomes the sole guardian of his late brother's kids after prioritizing his law career and ending his engagement. This movie was directed by Brian Herzlinger and written by Andrea Gyertson Nasfelt. And I want to talk about the filming location, but I would love to get initial thoughts from you guys first. What were your thoughts on this film?
I had not actually seen a preview for this movie, so I
Mhm,
didn't know what it was about going into it. I
mhm,
just knew that I had really wanted to see it because of the casting.
mhm.
I love anything that Alexa and Carlos do together. I just am obsessed when real life couples do movies together. I just think it adds an extra little touch of romance because you know that chemistry. I mean, obviously the chemistry is there for the movie, but you know in your mind that it's there in real life too, which is really special and fun. Um, so it was really interesting and really fun to watch the movie having no idea what it was about. I will say that I cried multiple times and yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, I had no idea what this movie was about either. I picked it solely based on the cover photo.
Hmm.
Yeah, I had
So,
never heard of it. I didn't see a trailer, and I will just put this out here right now. I loved this movie. Loved it.
yeah.
It's in my top 10 probably of Hallmark movies, just and we'll dig into it deeper, but so many emotional moments and such a good story, and the acting was exceptional. I just really loved this movie.
Yep. Yeah, I cried at least 3 times, maybe more. I
Mhm.
should have counted. But usually I don't cry with made for TV movies. I can't think of one that I cried watching anytime in the last little bit, at least. So, uh, yeah, this was well written, well acted, loved it. So, okay, well, we'll put the cart before the horse, but that's okay. Or the horse before,
Mhm.
yeah, the cart before the horse. That's right. So I want to talk about the filming location because there was actually a lot of information about this, which was pretty cool. So I looked it up, and the Asbury University website had a ton of information because they filmed most of the movie on campus at this university in Kentucky. And they did obviously film some of it in central Kentucky and other locations, and there were some shots in New York City. but the university was the primary filming location. And they used the Andrew S. Miller Center for Communication Arts as the hub for production. And then the On Asbury set consisted of a fully furnished apartment that they built in their TV studio soundstage, with other classrooms and spaces utilized as dressing rooms for the actors and production offices for the crew. And both students and staff in the film program had the ability to work on the film in positions like key grip and assorted other positions. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And the gal who wrote this screenplay, she is an alumni of the school. So that might be part of why they were able to use it. But there was a couple of interviews with different students talking about how it's not normal for them to get to actually work on a film on campus, and how cool it was and what a great opportunity it was to get that experience before they graduate. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. I would have loved that as a college student to be involved in the filming of a movie.
Yeah.
How cool.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Especially if you're a film student, that would be so awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and a lot of the professors there either have worked in the movie industry or are currently working. So they were able to take on positions that they knew how to do, and then have groups of students with them who could take turns and help and learn. And I just thought that was an awesome aspect of the film. So, and
That's really cool.
I never would have thought of Kentucky as a filming location, but apparently they have really good film credits there too. So we might start to see more movies, especially made for TV movies, being filmed there. So
Awesome.
Yeah. All right. Should we get into our recap?
Sure.
Yes.
All righty. So this movie opens with a new aunt named Danny and uncle named Mason bringing gifts to the hospital for their niece or nephew. We don't know right out of the gate. We do find out later, but we don't know right out of the gate. And then I loved this scene because usually I feel like in these movies, the hospital is bad. And so it was nice to see the hospital be something that was good. They were going there to see a new baby and to see their family in a happy environment. And I thought that was great.
It was really apparent too that this was such a wonderful experience. The whole ambiance of this part of the movie, like the sun shining through the window, it was bright and light, and everyone was smiling, and the colors in the hospital room were happy colors. And it just, I loved this scene. It was probably one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie.
Yeah. And they were typical new aunt and uncle with balloons and giant teddy bears and
bouquet of 50 balloons.
All the ridiculous things that no new parent actually wants. But the one thing I did not like about this scene, because this scene does set up the whole movie, is that Mason makes this announcement that he's been accepted to Columbia and he's going to move to New York. And he clearly has not discussed it with his fiancée at all.
No.
He just announces it to the whole family. And I thought that was kind of a bummer that he decided to do it right there, because it not only did it sideswipe his fiance, but also like it was kind of his brother's moment with their baby and stuff. And I think it could have waited even till the next day, So
But at the same time, he's very excited about it. He has no reason to believe that his fiance won't follow him to New York. So I think he's maybe thinking, we're already excited about this baby. Here's some more really great news.
Yeah.
Although it could have waited.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it really sets up, though, the idea that he, not necessarily that he's selfish, but that he's maybe not thinking of other people first. He's got this great news and he just assumes that his fiance is going to be totally on board and want to move with him, but he hasn't actually asked her. So it just kind of sets up that idea that, like, yes, he's a good dude, but maybe he's not quite thinking about all the things. Yeah. Maybe he's not thinking about how one decision can affect multiple things. So yeah, it was a bummer that he did that, but I did think it was important for his character development.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. He's got tunnel vision about his career and
exactly.
Yeah. So, Okay, so after this, we jump forward 10 years, and I was looking down, taking notes, and I missed the jump forward, and I was like, what has happened? Is this a dream? What is going on? So I had to rewind it, and then I realized, okay, we're done jumping forward a full decade. So this is a big leap into the future. So Mason obviously has graduated from Columbia. He's a lawyer. He lives in New York City, and it appears that he's no longer with Danny. It's not really addressed when we jump forward, but she's nowhere to be seen. So we assume that they are not together anymore. So Mason handles a sticky situation at his law firm with a high profile client in a very calm and collected manner. You can see that he has a high level of emotional intelligence. He's able to talk this person literally down from the ledge. And this really impresses his bosses, and they decide to give this client to him, which is a massive account that he has been going after during his career. What do you guys think of that scene?
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought that, like you said, it showed that Mason was very level-headed. He handled the situation like a true professional, but with compassion and kindness. And I just loved it. I love this scene.
Yep.
I did too. Yeah, he handled it with grace. You've got this older man in his bathrobe, literally, like you said, on the ledge, and he was able to jump in and not be reactive, but actually offer some compassion and help him through the situation.
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
Yep.
And I love how they incorporated some humor into this, because when he was telling him how to operate what's it called?
Scissor lift.
Yes, the scissor lift. He was telling him how to operate it to get back down. And he's all at first like going back up, and then finally he starts going down, and then it's going down fast. And he's like, well, you better hurry down the stairs, because he wants him to be at the bottom when he gets there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It was so funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very funny. So, and at the end of this scene, as he's getting off the scissor lift, he says, don't tell Lenora. And we don't know who Lenora is, but he just says, don't tell her. Okay, so this is going to come back later. So then we see a romantic dinner between Mason and his current girlfriend, who is not Danny. So we have confirmation that he is dating someone else. And it's interrupted by persistent calls from Danny over and over and over again. And he keeps ignoring the call. And then he finally says, I gotta get this. She keeps calling me. I don't know what's going on. It's clear that they probably haven't talked in 10 years. She doesn't normally call, so there's something going on. So he goes and answers the phone and finds out that his brother and sister-in-law have passed away in an accident, and he needs to come immediately because CPS is going to be there in the morning, and they need to figure out what to do with the kids. Now, obviously, go ahead.
I was going to say that phone call just caught me because she was so emotional, and you could just really feel her pain. And I like the way that they kind of set it up with the backstory at the hospital. So you got a glimpse of the brother and the sister-in-law. So you really felt connected to those characters. It wasn't like some movies, TV movies, they jump right in and say, well, this person's been widowed, or this person lost a brother, or whatever. And you don't really know the people, but I like the way that you really got a glimpse of what their relationship was.
Yep.
Yeah, because, like I said, going into this, I didn't know what it was about. I'd never seen a preview. And so when he got that call, I was like, what is happening? And this is the first time I cried in the movie. Well, check that off as the first one.
Yeah.
I was shocked, and it broke my heart because I already had become invested in those characters, and him and his brother's relationship was so sweet, and they seemed so close, like best friends. And so to see him get that news, and then like just to watch the emotional fallout of the whole thing, the acting was incredible. So good.
Yeah. I immediately, because again, I didn't know what the movie was about either, but I immediately thought of that movie with Katherine Heigl, and look at his name. The guy who used to be married to Fergie. No, I don't remember his name.
Oh yeah, Josh Duhamel.
Yeah, they are in a movie like this where their best friends pass away and they are given custody of the kids, but they're not a couple, and they end up moving in together and they fall in love. And, but it's the storyline is not similar because it goes in a very different direction, but it reminded me of that movie, and now I want to watch it again because I remember it being cute. But anyways, I don't know. The one thing that was interesting to me was these kids have grandparents. So I was surprised that CPS would be involved so quickly after their parents died when there is a will in place and they have grandparents who could, I'm like, who called CPS that fast? Somebody, I guess somebody did, but it was just interesting to me. But I don't know how these situations get handled in real life. So
Yeah, no idea.
No, I don't know. I wonder if it's just part of the process.
Yeah.
Like when both parents die at the same time, like that, maybe law enforcement has to contact CPS. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. So when Mason arrives in upstate New York, which is where he presumably grew up and where the kids live, Danny asks him to let her take care of the kids because she knows that the kids have been willed to Mason, but she also knows that she's the one who's been around. She babysits the kids every Friday night. She knows their routine. She can help keep them in the same schools and help make it just a little bit easier for them. And Mason says, no, my brother and sister-in-law wanted me to take the kids, and this is going to be incredibly difficult, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And I felt like this was really where you got to see that even though Danny and Mason had split up, Danny was still very much a part of the family of Mason's brother-in-law, very much a part of their lives, which at first I was like, this is kind of weird. Why is she still hanging around? And then I realized they explained that it's because her and Mason's brother, his wife, they were very, very close friends. And so that just kind of added another element to this whole emotional fallout after their passing, because you realize not only has he lost his brother, but Danny has lost her best friend. And so they're both grieving in a very similar way.
Yep. Well, and he, obviously has not been as present in the family's life. One, because he's been working on his law career, but I think two, also because Danny is around, right? And that's not easy. If you break up with somebody that you still are probably in love with, you probably don't want to be around them because it felt at this point like Danny was the one who ended the relationship. And so that's hurtful, right? For anybody, and probably don't want to be around that all the time. So yeah.
And yet she has a real connection with the kids because she's been babysitting them every Friday for all these years. And so what a difficult position to be in. Do you go with what the parents wanted as far as guardianship, or do you go with the person that's been with them basically their whole lives?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they talk about when these parents wrote this will, the two were still together, right? So there was an assumption that, well, they're not married yet, but Danny's going to be there, right? Because they're together. But then the will never got changed after they split up. And I have a feeling with this couple, if the will had been changed, they probably would have put Danny in that position instead of Mason.
Probably.
But you don't ever think, as a parent, you don't ever think you plan for the worst, but you don't ever think that something like this is actually going to happen. So,
right.
One thing that I thought was so refreshing. There were several things that were very refreshing about this movie, but his boss was actually nice and she actually cared about what was going on. And although she did care about the work and she did tell him it needed to be done, she also was like, hey, if you need to not take on big accounts right now, not become partner right now, and you need to be present for these kids, do that. And she understood because that's what she did. And it took her longer to become partner because of it. But she said she didn't regret it. So I liked that we didn't have such a hard ass as a boss in this movie.
Yeah. There was no threat that if you go back and bring the kids here and you have to spend so much time with the children, you're fired. There was none of that.
No.
And I don't think it's necessary.
No.
I loved that we had this strong, powerful woman in this role, right? She was partner, she was his boss, she was very capable. You know, she clearly was very successful in her career, but she also acknowledged the importance of motherhood and being a parent and how she was made it a priority to take care of her children. And she didn't make partner until her kids were, you know, had gone off to college. And I just thought that was such a beautiful thing that they were able to show that, you know, it's okay for a mom to be at home and to take care of her kids, but it's also okay for a mom to have this powerful role and be really successful in her career, and that she was able to do both things. She just managed her time and did what worked for her at the right time. And I just loved that. I loved her role in this movie.
Yep. I totally agree, for sure. So Mason packs up with the kids and he takes off, leaving Danny behind to pack up the house. Now, one thing that's occurring to me, did they go in an Uber?
Yes.
Okay, because I was going to say, who has a car in New York City? Nobody. But okay.
No, it wasn't an Uber. I think it was a rental car.
Okay.
Because the kids mentioned that. And he said something about this is a rental.
Yeah.
And they were like, why? You can't even afford, you're a big fancy lawyer. You can't even afford your own car. And he was like, I live in New York City. I don't have a car.
Yeah. Nobody has cars.
They were expecting a fancier car for this high profile attorney.
Yes.
Yeah. Because clearly they've been told stories about him, but they don't really know him well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I just have to say, I adored the kids in this movie.
Yeah.
They were everything.
Yes.
Their acting was phenomenal. You actually believed that they were siblings. They were hilarious. They gave their Uncle Mason a lot of crap, but they also were able to have serious emotional moments. And I loved the kids in this movie. They really
agree.
casted it well.
The acting was so good. And I looked them up, and Melody Rose Romano played the part of AJ. I think she's supposed to be like 8 years old. And I couldn't find any other acting credits. So I think this was her first movie, and she did an amazing job. It wasn't like, you can tell when a child actor is new and they're just kind of finding their way. No, she seemed like a seasoned pro.
Yeah. Well,
both of them did.
They were integral parts of the story. It wasn't just like, oh, I have a kid and they mostly spend 90% of their time at grandma's house or in their room.
Yeah, they were off at school.
Yeah, they were there in most of the scenes. So that was cool. Because that does add another layer of difficulty to production too, to have children on set. And so I always think it's nice when they're willing to do that.
Yeah.
So, okay. So Mason gets to New York City with the kids, and he has no plan for childcare. He has no plan.
He's got a studio apartment.
He's got a studio apartment. He's going to sleep on the couch. The kids are going to take his bed. And I'm like, you've been a lawyer. Let's see, you went to school for 4 years. You've been a lawyer for 6 years, and you still live in a studio?
I mean, it was a big studio, but still.
Yeah, it was a nice studio.
I want a bedroom. I want a door that I can close.
Yeah.
No. I don't want people to come over and be like, yeah, here's my bed.
This is where I sleep.
I understand it's necessary a lot of the time, but I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how fast lawyers make money. So I know it takes time.
Well, it also could be just a fiscal thing, because he is a single guy living in New York. I mean, he has a girlfriend, but it doesn't seem that serious. And so, because I wondered about this too, he's eventually starts looking for like a 3-bedroom home, right, in a good school district in Manhattan. And I'm like, how much is this going to set this guy back? We're just going to jump right into the deep end here. So I had to look it up and see how much this would actually cost. And the average monthly rent for a 3-bedroom apartment in Manhattan is $6,995 a month. So that kind of explained a little bit to me why he might still be in a studio, because holy moly, $7,000 a month in rent?
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
Well, yeah. And when he starts to actually look at new apartments and places to live, he's either, he finds that they're either in high crime areas, they're too small, or the one she said, yeah, this is going to run you about 18 grand a month. And I, holy moly. But I like that they kept it real too, because New
Mhm.
York, like Seattle, is not cheap. And
No.
so often you see these grand penthouse apartments with these spectacular views, and the person, works in data entry or something. So it's not
Yeah.
really real, but this really, they really kept it real.
Yeah, I looked this up too. And so District 2 is what they're looking for. That's supposedly the best school district. Although I would think that he would probably put them in private school personally, but just because if you have money in New York, I think that's kind of what you do. But District 2 is the best. So that is in Manhattan's Lower East Side and East Village. And it also covers Alphabet City, Gramercy Park, Kips Bay, Murray Hill, and Rose Hill. So I found 2 different apartments, and one of them, 3-bedroom, 1 bathroom, 1,100 square feet, with a $7,800 deposit.
Oh my.
Anywhere between $7,250 to $9,350. No outdoor space.
Holy moly.
Yeah, no outdoor space. The bathroom looked like it was from 1961.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah. And then there was another 3-bedroom, 1 bathroom that was 900 square feet. I'm like, where are you fitting 3 bedrooms in 900 square feet? I'd really like to know.
Oh, yeah.
It was like a Polly Pocket kitchen, like micro kitchen.
So this wasn't 3 bedrooms. This was 3 closets.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And this one is $6,200 to $6,300 a month. Again,
Oh my word.
no
We
outdoor
are never
space.
selling our house ever.
Yeah. Madness. Living in New York City is absolute madness. Yeah. And it's not like these are brand new apartments. No, they're old. They're run down. They probably don't have like a secure building. They don't have a security guard or
You
amenities.
hear gunshots at night.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah. No, I just don't think I'd want to live like if I had a lot of money, like tons of money, I just don't think an apartment or a condo would be my choice.
No.
No. I wouldn't want to live in a big city at all. I'm just not a city girl.
Mhm.
So if I had a lot of money, I would buy a lot of property and just build my barn dominium that I've always been dreaming of.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd
Absolutely.
have that. I'd have the farm and a view of the ocean, because those are my 2 happy places.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I might have like a vacation rental condo or something in a city that I really like.
Sure.
That I could make money off of and visit every once in a while. Like
Mhm.
if I wanted to pop to New York and see a show or something like that.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
or be there at Christmas time or something.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
But I mean, every city is not as pretty as you think it's going to be.
No, they
Mhm.
never are. They
No.
glamorize them so much on these movies. And then you go there and it's disgusting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Like the crime is terrible and the streets are dirty. And yes, there's pretty things here and there, but it is not the friendly, bustling town that is
No.
portrayed in the movies.
No. And that's probably a big reason why there were just a few scenes that they filmed actually in New York. When they were actually in Central Park, when they were standing in front of a brownstone, those were necessary. But
Mhm.
Mhm.
they're like, aside from that, we're building an apartment in Kentucky and we're going to film there.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mason has taken off with the kids, and he ends up having to bring them to work because he has no nanny, no childcare. So he takes them to work and puts them in his office, tells them not to make any noise, and it turns into a massive disaster. They
Of course it
hide
does.
under the desk because they're trying to be helpful, and it's all bad. It's all bad. And so one of the kids ends up getting injured by Mason's girlfriend's high heel, and then they have to call a medic, and it's just a mess.
When they're sitting under the desk and his girlfriend walks in, she's just sitting there, fixing her makeup or whatever, legs crossed. And I'm thinking about, if you're just sitting there with your legs crossed, like how often do you accidentally kick your
Uh-huh.
leg? It's like a reflex,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So and they're eating candy, and Mason like is or not Mason, Ruben,
Yeah.
the little boy, he's encouraging his sister Amanda to drop the gummy worm on her foot. It's candy. It's not like a real worm.
It's not a
Yeah.
spider,
He drops
but
it
it
on
startles
her foot,
her.
and she just kicks him right in the face.
Yeah.
And I was dying.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, the gummy worm thing becomes a running joke throughout the movie that they really
Mhm.
like to try to mess with people with gummy worms.
Well, and I like that they were typical kids. They're trying to be quiet, but they're not quiet. And they've taken all the paper clips out of the drawer and they've strung them around this teddy bear's neck, and he's hanging from the desk drawer. Just typical
Just find
kids stuff.
anything you can to make a toy.
Yeah.
We're going to amuse
Yeah.
ourselves with office supplies.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and Alexa and Carlos have at least 3 kids, I think. So they
Mhm.
probably had some input on, okay, what are the wild things going to be that these kids do?
Right. Yes.
Because they know, right? So
Yeah. And they actually, as a family, had so much chemistry in the movie that I was like, I wonder if those are their kids.
mhm.
And I had to look it up and see, because they just were so believable as a family. Turns out
Mhm.
they're not. They're
Yeah.
real life kids. But it had me wondering, because they did such a good job interacting with each other.
Oh yeah. I wonder if they ever will do a movie with their kids. I don't know how old their kids are. So
I don't know. That would be cool though.
yeah.
It was interesting though, because I watched this movie with my girls again. And actually, I think I watched it with Tyler too. I think all 3 of the older kids watched it with me. And we're about halfway through the movie, and it occurred to me, I was like, oh, they haven't made the connection yet. And I was like, you guys, look at Danny. Look at the character of Danny. And they're like, okay. Like, who does she look like? Do you know who she is? And they're just sitting there and they're staring at her. And I've just like got a smirk on my face. And they're like, she is familiar. And they keep staring at her. And all of a sudden, Abby goes, Spy Kids.
Yep.
I was like, yes, can you
Yeah.
believe it? It's a girl from Spy Kids. And
Yeah.
they were just in shock that she
Yeah.
had grown up and was a woman now. It was pretty funny.
Yep, it's so funny. Yeah. She does look different because her hair is darker in Spy Kids, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's like a dark reddish
Yeah.
color.
Yeah. But yeah, it's funny. It's nice to see a child actor though who is still acting and seems to be
Mhm.
enjoying herself
And she doesn't look like she's had a bunch of work done. And, she's so beautiful.
Yeah.
So beautiful. And she's allowing herself to grow up and age naturally. And
Mhm.
she doesn't look like she has a ton of Botox. And it's just so refreshing to see someone just embrace their natural beauty in Hollywood.
Yep.
Mhm.
And I love her
Or
hair.
in Kentucky.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
in
her hair is
Kentucky.
beautiful.
Her
In
hair is so
Kentucky.
pretty. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
it made
Absolutely
me
gorgeous.
wish I had curly hair for sure.
I know.
Okay, so Danny now is going to come out to New York so that she can drop off some more stuff because she's been left behind to clear out their entire house by herself. She's grieving, but this house is a rental, so they have to get out. Or they're going to have to pay
It was
rent
a
again.
rental.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
that was my confusion during this movie. That was one of the things that kind of caught me. I was like, why do they have to move out? Why is no one considering the idea of keeping the house?
Mhm.
Why is no one thinking about maybe Danny and Mason move in and share the responsibilities of taking care of the kids? But if it's a rental, I must have missed that. If it's a rental, that totally makes sense.
Yeah, so Mason
Mhm.
says the rent is paid up through this month and then we have to be out.
Okay, I missed that too.
Yeah, so that's why. But I'm like, I mean, she doesn't want to hire people to pack up the house, so I get that. But that is so much work. And when does she work on her own job or like
Well, because she's a writer,
Yeah.
right? She's like a freelance
Yeah.
writer. So she's got to have some flexibility, but
But still, that's a massive
flexibility
job.
and zero availability is
Mhm.
Yeah,
a
packing-
different thing.
Yeah, packing up a 3-bedroom house by yourself when you are also grieving the loss of the people who lived in that house. I cannot imagine that. No.
The emotional connection to the things that you're
Mhm.
packing away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so she's working on that, but while they have to get out of the house quickly, she decides, I'm going to go to New York and bring some of this stuff over there with me. And then I'm going to stay for at least a week, maybe longer. They don't ever specify exactly how long she's there, but she does end up staying to help out Mason with the kids.
Now, there was a little hole here. There's a little room for improvement here because one of the reason wow, words, Danielle. What sparked her coming to bring some things was that Amanda, the little girl, had forgotten her favorite stuffy. It had been wrapped up in the blankets of her bed and she had forgotten to bring it with her. She was having a hard time, settling in and sleeping and whatnot without her stuffy. So she was going to bring her that and drop off some other things. They convinced her to stay. She was just going to drop the stuff off and go home. But then, like you said, she ends up staying for at least a week or so, right? But she has clothes with her. The night that she stays, when she was planning on going right home, she's wearing like her own pajamas. They're clearly not like an old t-shirt of Mason's. They're collared button-up pajamas. So I did find that part a little strange. And maybe even if they could have said, like, put her in some of Mason's clothes for the first night. And then they could have said something about her running home to pick up some clothes and coming back to stay and help out for a little while.
Yeah.
But it was very odd that she somehow had all of these clothes with her. And then when she eventually leaves, when she's, leaving the building, she's got a rolling suitcase with her. And I just was like, where'd the suitcase come from? That's where all her clothes were, I guess. But why did she bring it if she was planning on leaving that night?
Maybe she thought, he's going to need me. I'm going to have to stay. Like maybe she was just like, I think I'm going to have to stay there.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
Which also they could have said. She could have been like, you know what? I did pack a bag just in case.
Yes.
Something like that. But or maybe she did and they cut that scene out. I don't know. But
Maybe. Could have
that
edited
was bothering me during the movie. I was like, where she clearly didn't just like go shopping.
Yeah. In New York City. No.
Funny. Right. Yeah.
So she ends up staying to help with the kids for a few days. And this is where you really start to see the connection that Mason and Danny have. They start spending more time together. They go to Central Park to show the kids, like, this could be your backyard, this giant park. And you also see their potential to form kind of an unconventional family. And several parts of these next few scenes had me in tears. They were just great. I am not a particularly religious person, but I appreciated the way that they integrated faith into this movie, especially because it's an important part of GAC and the mission of the channel. And so you see that Danny's character is very connected to her faith and Mason is not at all. And so she continues to bring it up in a gentle but nudging way with Mason and just trying to tell him, like, you can let go a little bit and you can just let things happen in your life and you don't have to be so in control of every single little thing all the time. And even if you aren't religious, I think that that's a good reminder.
I think
well,
so
yeah,
too.
because she says, if you are trying to control everything in your life, you're not leaving any room for God to do anything.
And something awesome, she says.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. You're not leaving room for God to do something awesome. And I just loved that because it's so true. And yeah, I just, it like gives me goosebumps. It was so good. And the scene where Amanda Jane, the little girl, when she prays at bedtime, because she, Uncle Mason's trying to put them to bed and she asks if they can say a prayer and he's like, clearly uncomfortable. So he asked her if she would do it. And she prays for Uncle Mason and that she knows he's doing a good job. And she prays for her parents, that God would say hi to her mom and dad for her. And oh my gosh, this was another scene where I just was like, I literally wrote in my notes, did not know this was going to be a crying movie. Oh my gosh. Yes. The faith aspect of this movie was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
It was beautiful, but also I felt like it wasn't so in your face that it would be off-putting to somebody who really isn't religious or doesn't have
Mhm.
strong faith. I feel like it spoke to a wide audience just because of the theme of grief and overcoming really sad emotions and learning to find happiness again. I think it was relatable to anybody watching.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
And this movie really made me feel like, okay, I think GAC is getting their footing, because definitely the first 2 years, they were really only releasing Christmas movies. They weren't doing a lot of other movies. And there were some that were great, and there were some that were really not good at all. And so
Mhm.
Yep.
this movie gives me a lot of hope that, okay, maybe rolling into this holiday season, we're going to see a lot of really solid movies
Mhm.
coming from them. Of course, there will always be some that we don't like, but hopefully we're not going to see as many that are really poorly written or really poorly acted, that kind of thing. So,
Well, I think their combination with PureFlix was a really good move.
mhm.
And I think that because they are trying to incorporate more, faith into their movies and more Christian values. And so I think combining with another company that's trying to do that, but maybe individually they didn't have the finances to make these really good movies. Like
Mhm.
Hallmark has a bajillion dollars to do this because they've been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
Maybe not a bajillion dollars. They're still lower budget, but
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know what I mean. And so, yeah, I'm excited to see what they do this holiday season.
Yeah.
There were definitely some that I liked last year. I
Mhm.
don't know that there were any that I really loved, except for the one Candace Cameron Bure
Mhm.
movie,
Yeah.
because everything she's in is good. And I read that she actually has 2 Christmas movies coming out on GAC this year.
Mhm.
Oh.
So I'm very excited about that. But yeah, Jess, I think you're right on about GAC starting to find its footing, find
Mhm.
its place, and we'll see where it goes from here.
Well,
Well,
and you mentioned that they had, excuse me, they had
No, you're
gone
fine.
to Central Park. And I feel like this is when you really see them kind of bonding as a family, even though they're not a family, they're really bonding and they've got this shared grief. And then afterwards, this is making me emotional just thinking about it. When Ruben says, he forgot he was supposed to be sad and he was feeling guilty for being happy.
Uh-huh.
And it's so real life because we all face grief in one form of another, some sort of loss, whether it's
Yeah.
a parent, a sibling, a pet even.
Yeah.
And you are in the throes of sadness and anger and all this, and then all of a sudden you're laughing again. And for a second, it takes your breath away and you're like, I'm supposed to be sad. And
Yeah.
no, that's all part of it. And it ebbs and flows. And it's just, I thought it was so well done, the way that they showed how the process of grief is for everybody.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And
Yeah, because there's a long time where you go out into normal society when something has happened to you, when you're experiencing grief, and you look around and you're like, why isn't anyone else sad? Like, don't they know what just happened?
Yeah.
Don't they know like what I'm feeling?
Yeah.
Why are they smiling at me? Why are they having a good time? Like,
Why are all these dumb birds singing? Yeah.
like, why don't they know? You know?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you stop feeling that way and people being happy is normal again. And it's just such a weird roller coaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the understanding, especially for kids, because they're obviously not in control of their emotions. They don't know really how they should be feeling, and being able to encourage them that joy and sadness can coexist, and that's okay.
Mhm.
And you can feel sad sometimes and then also laugh at a funny joke or, whatever is going on. It's not, you shouldn't have to feel guilty for finding joy, even though you're going through a difficult time. So,
Right.
yes.
And I thought that scene was so beautiful when Mason went and talked with Ruben, because Ruben is the one that we see being born in the beginning of the movie,
Mhm.
right? And his middle name is Mason, or he's like somehow named after Mason.
I think his middle name is Mason.
Is it Mason? So you see this connection forming in the beginning of the movie when he's just totally taken with his first nephew with this baby, and he's asked to be the guardian, and him and his brother are super close. And then after that 10-year jump, you see how they've kind of, lost touch, and he's not really close with Ruben, and he doesn't know Ruben. And so then to see him going through these emotions and saying how he forgot he's supposed to be sad, and you can see he's really upset. And Danny is there, and she easily could have been the one to comfort him, but Mason takes that on. And it's really, really sweet to see that relationship start to come back together, and he's able to help him work through it. And when maybe in the beginning, when he first got the kids, he wouldn't have been able to. So it's really sweet. I loved that scene.
Yep, I did too, for sure. Okay, so also, side note, Central Park is not as nice as they make it look in the movie. Just in case anybody was wondering. It's more Home Alone 2 vibes than but they did do a great job of making it look clean and beautiful and not overrun with thousands of people and
Criminals.
That you would just let your kids just run off and it's no big deal.
I noticed that. Don't run too far ahead. I'm like, don't run far ahead at all.
My kids would be on a leash in Central Park.
Oh my gosh. I've never been to New York, and I've always dreamed of going, and like, especially at Christmas time, and seeing the tree at Rockefeller Center. But then there's another part of me that doesn't ever want to go, because I don't want to lose that idea of New York that I have in my head from the movies. And I know if I go there, it's going to be ruined.
I've never been either. And
I've been there during Christmas. Yeah. And the Christmas tree is great. You can't get near it. There's so many people. You can't get near it. Forget about ice skating in Rockefeller Center, like, unless you want to wait 3 hours. But I will say we did the Empire State Building, and then we did Top of the Rock, which is top of the 30 Rock building. I way preferred the 30 Rock building, and the view was beautiful. And then seeing a show in New York is just cool. That's really cool. But yeah, it's definitely the dirtiest city I've ever been to, for sure. And that was over a decade ago, so I'm sure it's unfortunately worse now. But
oh yeah, I can't even handle downtown Seattle anymore. We used to go a lot when Jordan and I first got married. We used to go a lot to Pike Place Market, and take the kids down there, do the Ferris wheel, and we loved it. And now, almost 10 years later, not a chance. It's gross down there. And it's just, I am not a city person to begin with.
Yeah.
I like a nice, clean city. Downtown Boise, Idaho is great.
Well, and downtown San Antonio is nice. There's definitely still some things that aren't super desirable, but it's like if you had gone to Seattle downtown like 15 years ago, that's kind of how San Antonio is.
Yeah.
So I'll take the kids down there by myself, not at night, but during the day, I'll go down there with the kids by myself, no problem. And there's plenty of parking, and it's not $300 to park and those kind of things.
Parking kills you.
Yeah.
If you've got an event you've got tickets for, and then you've got to pay $50 for parking on top of that.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Or more. I know that I have
we
friends that went to see a concert and they paid $100 to park.
We do not park down there. No way. The only time I ever go to downtown Seattle is if we're going to a sporting event. So if we're going to a Mariners game, if we're going to a Seahawks game, we will take the light rail. We'll drive to Tukwila, we'll park, we'll take the light rail so that we don't have to pay for parking, and so we can get out of there quickly when we're done.
Yep.
This podcast brought to you by the Chamber of Commerce of Seattle.
Don't go to Seattle. It sucks.
And this is why people in New York City do not drive cars, because where the heck would you park them, and where would you get the budget to pay to park them?
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Okay. So Danny realizes that she needs to head home. I think she feels like she's getting a little too comfortable. It's getting a little too close. She knows this is not going to last forever. She decides, I got to get out of here. So she leaves, and everybody's sad that she's leaving, but they understand why she has to go. But after she leaves, Mason quickly gets very overwhelmed by caring for the kids, dealing with work and still finding housing because he hasn't found somewhere for them to live. So he decides, I can't do this. This is not good for the kids. And I have to go ask Danny to take custody of the kids. So this is the one part of the movie that I thought was really crappy. I did not like the way that he was willing to just kind of back and forth with the kids. I felt like if he had, I understand that he felt like he had an obligation to his brother and his sister-in-law to take the kids, but I think he probably should have stayed there in upstate New York with the kids for a few weeks, take time off of work, help Danny pack up the house and figure out, can I actually do this? Is this going to be okay? Instead of taking them to New York, bringing them back, and then later we're going to find out he's going to take them back again. So I didn't love that for the kids' sake, personally.
Yeah, there were some real conversations that should have happened beforehand. What's the best scenario for the kids? How are we going to navigate this? You have a relationship with them, meaning Danny. At what extent do you want to continue to be in their lives? How are we going to make this happen? Do we want to co-parent in some way? None of that happened. I think he was so driven by the fact, one, his grief, but also because this was his brother and sister-in-law's wish was for him to be guardian. So he just didn't really think clearly about what that would entail. So he just said, okay, let's do it, without a thought of how it was actually going to play out.
Yeah.
Which is kind of true for him throughout the movie, right? He gets into Colombia and makes this grand announcement that he's leaving and just assuming that everything's going to work out, assuming that his fiance is going to want to come with him, assuming that everyone's going to be super happy for him, assuming that nothing will change. And so it's kind of the same idea here where he gets excited about an idea and he's like, yes, I can do this. I can handle this. And then he realizes he really can't do it all. And he really, he's trying to control everything in his life and he's not leaving room for God to do something awesome. And it's just, it fits. It sucks, but it fits.
Yeah. Yep. So he takes the kids to Danny. She obviously takes them in and he leaves. He goes back to New York. So once he's back in New York, Mason's big client is in the hospital and he decides to go visit him because he's in a meeting with the partners at his firm and people who are, I'm assuming, helping run this client's company. And he's asking, where's his family? Oh, well, he doesn't have any. Well, who's with him at the hospital? Nobody. So Mason decides, I'm going to be the one to go and visit him in the hospital. So he goes to the hospital and the client offers him some really great advice when Mason asks him, who is Lenora, the woman that he mentioned at the beginning? And Lenora is a woman that he had a relationship with, but he prioritized his career over her and he lost her. And so he is using this story to tell Mason, don't make that same mistake in your own life. And Mason picks up what he's putting down. And then randomly, this client is like, hey, I have a brownstone that's for rent. You want to rent it? But I'm not giving you a discount. Well, a brownstone in New York City is going to cost like $20,000 a month minimum. And I'm like, he was just worried about his budget. Now he's like, yeah, I'm going to rent a brownstone. Fine, let's do it.
Yeah, great.
I'm like, all right. If he gave it to him at like a discount, or he's like, you know what, I know you've been through a lot, I'm going to give it to you for free for the first year or something, cool. But like he's very clear in saying, I'm not giving you no discount. Yeah. So I would love to live in a brownstone. They're so cool, but I know they are so expensive.
Oh yeah. One of my favorite ones is in You've Got Mail. Kathleen Kelly lives in this darling brownstone. And I always wonder, how does she afford that? It's got to be so much money. And I don't know, is that in New York or is that, that's in New York also. So
because she owns a failing bookstore, right?
Yeah. Her bookstore is struggling. But maybe it was her mom's. Maybe the brownstone.
That's my default. I always assume it must have been left to them by someone, a rich aunt.
Where's
I
my
don't know.
rich aunt that left me a brownstone?
No kidding. Come on.
So Mason is like, takes this as a sign that he should probably get the kids back now that he has left them with Danny. So then before he goes back to New York or to upstate New York, he parts ways with his girlfriend. And she is so understanding and so mature. And she's not a brat like they usually are in these movies where the girlfriend is a spoiled snot who just wants a engagement ring. Yes, she does want an engagement ring, but she quickly understands that this is not a good fit for either of them.
Right. This is not where this relationship is going.
No.
Yeah, I actually noted that she was so understanding, like you said, she wasn't vengeful. They didn't have to create a villain. It was just a very sweet, supportive scene where she realizes he's not for me, I'm not for him, and the best thing for him is to move on with his new family.
Right.
And there was, nobody threw anything. No, there were no slam doors. It was just mature.
Yeah. And there was another scene because she's a real estate agent. So throughout this whole movie, she's trying to help Mason find an apartment for him and these kids. And there's a scene where she finds one that's really nice, very expensive, everything that he's looking for. And she says to Danny that they could afford it together, that Mason and Tish, the girlfriend, could afford it together. And so she's thinking long term, right? And she's dating this single lawyer in New York who has a studio apartment. And now all of a sudden he has 2 kids and she's still like, okay, well, together we could afford this bigger apartment for us and the kids. Like she's a gem.
She's not that typical girlfriend that wants to send the kids off to boarding school. She's
right.
Yeah.
She's not encouraging him to give up guardianship. She really is the one that lets him go in the breakup scene. I mean, she's the one that's like, you know what? This is not right for either of us or for the kids. And it's very nice to see that not have to be an explosive disaster. There was no cheating involved. There was no, no nasty stuff.
It was just an adult breakup, a normal, drama-free breakup for sure.
Because if we were on Lifetime, then Mason and Danny would have gotten together and Tish would have found out and it would have been this whole big nasty thing. But they didn't go that way. And I really
real estate
appreciate
it.
Yes.
So then we've got Mason's going to go back upstate. He's going to reclaim his family, and that's going to include Danny. It's not just going to be the kids. It's also going to be Danny. And that is just about where our movie ends. The movie closes with a scene of them coming out of the brownstone. So we see that they've all moved into the brownstone together. And maybe Danny is a very successful writer, so they can afford it together.
Maybe.
And you see that they are going to go spend a day together. Danny's going to meet them later at a sporting event that they're going to. And it seems like they are settling into life in New York City. Yeah.
I loved the close-up of their hands separately. So you could see the wedding rings on their fingers.
Yes.
And I loved this part, again, made me cry. In the beginning of the movie, Mason gives a new dad t-shirt to his brother in the hospital. And then in the closing scene, you notice that Mason is wearing that new dad shirt as he goes to spend the day with the kids. And it just was so sweet. And I loved that.
Well, and one other sweet moment that I love, jumping back just a little bit, Mason goes back to church on his own. And the praise band is playing the song that Danny had sang to AJ when AJ had a bad dream. And that's another one. I'm like, oh,
yes.
What are they doing to me? This
Yes.
is such an emotional roller coaster. But I think it's all these little tiny moments that really made for a really great film.
Yeah. As soon as the praise band started singing that song, I was like, Oh my gosh, they're singing the song. It's a sign. Go back.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was so good.
And I love that they let her sing like a normal parent or guardian would. It wasn't like they dubbed it over with somebody who was a fantastic singer.
Yes.
She's just like,
Authentic.
a family friend who's singing to the kids, and I really
Mhm.
liked that. Yeah, because a lot of times they'll get like a studio singer and dub it over the top, and I don't think it's necessary,
No.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. This is real life.
Okay, so we already talked about my behind the scenes details because that was the apartment chit chat. So I thought we would play a little game now.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you guys a list of the top 5 most expensive cities to live in the world.
Mm.
And I want you to try to put them in order from 1 to 5
Ooh.
or from 5 to 1. Yeah.
I'm interested to know just what the top 5 are.
1 being the most expensive.
1 being the most expensive, 5 being
Okay.
still expensive, but the least of
Okay.
the top 5. Okay. So we've got New York City, Boston, Geneva, Zurich, and San Francisco.
Oh my gosh. I don't know anything about Geneva or Zurich.
I don't either.
I didn't know they
Where
were
are those
expensive.
places?
Switzerland. They're both
Geneva,
in Switzerland.
Switzerland. Mhm.
Okay, thank you. I'm surprised that Dubai is not on that list.
Mhm. Mm-mm.
Hmm. I'm gonna say New York City is number 1.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm gonna go New York, Zurich, Boston, Geneva, and whatever the other one was.
San Francisco.
Oh, San Francisco.
Ah.
No.
Okay, I'm
San
gonna
Francisco,
say
then Boston. Maybe.
New York, Geneva, San Francisco, Zurich, Boston.
Okay. So I'm going to count down from 5.
We're both wrong.
You were both wrong. Sorry, guys.
Dang it. No sour gummy worms for us.
No, sorry. Number 5 is Boston. You both picked Boston for number 5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you got 1 right. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Number 4 is San Francisco. Number 3 is New York City.
Oh.
Number 2 is Zurich. And number 1 is Geneva.
Huh.
So I wondered.
So I can never live in Geneva ever.
I wondered if Switzerland is more expensive because they're super clean and very strict about following rules and laws and all that stuff. So I wonder if taxes are a lot higher there.
Mhm.
And that's part of why it's more expensive to live there. But
I wanted to tell you guys, when I was watching this movie, there was an ad for the Great American Family Christmas Festival. Did you guys see this?
no.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, it looks amazing. It's going to be November 20th through January 5th in Elmont, New York. There's going to be a tree lighting, Santa's meet and greet, ice skating, a holiday craft workshop, Christmas karaoke, celebrity appearances, live holiday concerts, ugly sweater concert.
You sing
Ugly
and look ugly.
It'll be the Wiggles in ugly sweaters.
Ugly sweater contest, holiday movie screenings, VIP igloo reservations, marshmallow roasting, and festive food and drink. And it looks absolutely amazing. The first
Fun.
ever Great American Family Christmas Festival. I want to go so bad, but it's in New York.
We should
so
do a Christmas festival right here on our property. Set up
Mm.
little
Yes.
cocoa booth.
that would be fun.
I mean, we never know what the weather's going to be. Will we
Yeah,
have
probably
snow?
Well,
rain.
you
Will
can
we
come
not?
down here because it'll probably be nice. It'll probably
That's true.
Winter here is 70. Last year it was 75 on Christmas.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
But then you can't wear your sweaters and your scarves and your hats and boots and
You have to
all
have
the
frozen hot chocolate
Christmas
instead.
things.
Yeah.
Although
frozen
I
hot
would
chocolate.
do Christmas in Hawaii sometime. I think they.
Oh, sure. I would love to do that.
Yes. for
Someday.
sure. Okay, so shall we rate this flick?
Sure.
Yes, let's do it.
So I picked new dad t-shirts for our rating.
Oh,
Aw. Okay, I wasn't sure if you're going to go with gummy worms or.
I picked the
But
new
that's-
dad.
although I have to say, so there's a scene where they get ice cream and the kids want the sour gummy ice cream, and or maybe they put sour gummies in their ice cream. I can't remember which, but I remember making a note of this because I hate anything gummy in my ice cream because it gets like rock hard.
Yeah.
And we went to this new ice cream place a couple days ago for my son's birthday. It's called Lick Homemade Ice Cream, downtown Puyallup, Washington. And two of my kids ordered the sour gummy ice cream. And I was like, what the heck, you guys? Why? You're going to be so annoyed. You're trying to lick this ice cream cone and your sour gummies are going to be like rocks falling out of your ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you, I don't know what kind of magic they do at Lick Homemade Ice Cream, but it was so delicious. And it got like harder, but still chewable to the point where it doesn't get stuck in your teeth. You just bite it and it's fine. And the ice cream itself tasted like sour gummy worms too.
Ooh.
It was so delicious. I was like, I take back everything I've ever said about sour gummies and ice cream. This is so good. So if you ever are in Puyallup, Washington, check out Lick Homemade Ice Cream. I had the coffee toffee. They also have a peanut butter banana brownie flavor that's delicious.
Ooh.
Really, really good ice cream.
Yum. I love ice cream. Love it.
Me
Love
too.
it so much.
So good. So good.
All right. How do you guys rate this movie?
Well, I already told you that I loved it right from the first 2 minutes, but the acting was authentic and believable. It was a beautiful story of love, loss, and healing. There were no unnecessary villains. I felt like the story flowed from start to finish, no unnecessary filler. There's really nothing I didn't like about the movie. I just thought it was an excellent choice, and I give it 5 enthusiastic new dad t-shirts.
Cool.
Yeah, I totally agree. I loved this movie. It was a breath of fresh air. It was sweet. It was wholesome. It was a movie that was completely fine for me to watch with my entire family. It was just a beautiful story. The acting was wonderful. They took a very serious issue, a very emotional story, and were still able to add in some moments of comedy. And it was just lovely. I would definitely watch this movie again. I also give it 5 new dad t-shirts.
Okay. So I also loved this movie. I loved the storyline. Alexa PenaVega just gets an extra point for her hair.
Yes.
The acting was great. The writing was great. There was one thing that I didn't think was necessary in the movie, and that was the 2 times that they brought up abuse allegations. And I did not think that was necessary in this film at all. The landlord of Mason she was not nice. She was the villain, I guess, in the movie.
Yeah, true.
But 2 times the police officer accused him of abuse, and I just was like, that's a little, like, because your kids are over on swings and you're over here, you're abusing them. Like, I just thought it was weird.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, with those scenes, I actually found it interesting because I think it kind of highlighted like the nosy Nellies, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was these 2 moms at the park who were watching Mason's kids.
Yeah.
Which, first of all, like, why are you watching them so intently?
Yeah.
It's not coming from a place of love or security. Mason's sitting right there. He's interviewing nannies. It's not like they're alone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they're watching them. And because he has a black eye, because of Mason's girlfriend accidentally kicking him in the face, they call the cops.
Yeah.
Like, how many times do kids get black eyes from silly things?
The time.
I got a black eye when I was 3 years old from driving a car down the stairs. Like,
Yes.
it happens.
Not a real car, just so you know.
No, a toy, a little Tykes. So I did actually kind of like those scenes because I felt like the cop was really kind. And a lot of the time in these movies, when the CPS gets called or the cops get called, they tend to be really hard and just like no room for any explanation. Just like you were accused of abuse and you must have done it. But this cop was actually really kind to Mason and actually asked questions, which I appreciated. The landlord lady you're talking about, she was horrible. I agree.
It's awful.
But when the cop came, it happened to be the same cop. And he had this like dad talk with Mason. And I just thought I thought it was really sweet. I liked that. So anyway, not that you asked, but those are my 2 cents on that part.
We always want to know. Okay. So I'm going to give this one a 5 too. I loved it. I thought it was great. There was nothing about it that I thought was terrible, and I would definitely watch it again. And I loved that it was family friendly, and there were, most of these movies are family friendly, but this was really family friendly. There was no like making out. There was nothing, right? So, but you still saw a really great connection between the 2 lead characters, and I just loved it. So I was really, really pleased with this film. So
it's always nice when you kind of pick one out of the dark. You've never even really heard about it, and it's a success, because we know some of the ones I've picked have been like, okay.
Yeah, it could have gone so many ways, but luckily this one was a winner. So,
okay, so we're going to look forward a little bit to next week, where we're going to do something very different, and I'm very excited about it. Yes. So we decided we want to do something fun and mix it up as we're walking into October, into spooky, scary season. And we are excited to share our personal pitches for a made-for-TV Halloween movie, because we have noticed that Hallmark and GAC do not really do Halloween movies, and we want that to change. So maybe we won't convince GAC to do it, but I think we could convince Hallmark. And so we have each made up a pitch for a Halloween movie, including a script for a scene and what actors and actresses we want to see in the movie. And we're going to share that with you during our episode next week.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Yeah. I can't
We've
wait.
talked for many years about how Hallmark never has Halloween movies. There's been maybe 1 or 2. There's The Good Witch that's kind of Halloween-esque, but there's never. They usually jump fall, Christmas. So it's a lot of autumn harvest and wineries and pumpkin patches, but never really Halloween. And so this is going to be really, really fun. And
I'm
Hallmark,
so excited to hear what you guys came up with.
Yeah. If you're listening, Hallmark,
we haven't heard each other's.
Some golden ideas for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So give us a call. We will happily come meet with you.
Yes.
Okay, so be sure to follow us on Instagram at Love on the Pod, and share your episode thoughts or ideas by emailing us at loveonthepod@gmail.com. Plus, you can text us with future movie recommendations using the link in our show notes. If you loved this episode and want to hear more, please subscribe to the podcast, as we drop new episodes weekly.
So whether you're heading to Columbia for law school,
or squeezing 4 people into a New York City studio apartment,
we hope you like gummy worms. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
bye-bye.
Bye.